It was now the 8th day since my crash landing in the desert, and I'd listened to the story about the sales clerk as I was drinking the last drop of my water supply. Ugh, I said to the little prince. Your memories are very pleasant, but I haven't yet repaired my plane. I have nothing left to drink, and I, too, would be glad to walk very slowly toward a water fountain. My friend the fox told me, Little fellow, this has nothing to do with the fox. Why? Because we're going to die of thirst. The little prince didn't follow my reasoning, and answered me, It's good to have a friend, even if you're going to die. Myself, I'm very glad to have had a fox for a friend. He doesn't realize the danger, I said to myself. He's never hungry or thirsty. A little sunlight is enough for him. But the little prince looked at me and answered my thought. I'm thirsty too. Let's find a well. I made an exasperated gesture. It is absurd looking for a well at random in the vastness of the desert, but even so we started walking. When we had walked for several hours in silence, night fell and stars began to appear. I noticed them as in a dream, being somewhat feverish on account of my thirst. The little prince's words danced in my memory. So you're thirsty too? I asked. But he didn't answer my question. He merely said to me, Water can also be good for the heart. I didn't understand his answer, but I said nothing. I knew by this time that it was no use questioning him. He was tired. He sat down. I sat down next to him, and after a silence he spoke again. The stars are beautiful because of a flower you don't see. I answered, yes, of course. And without speaking another word, I stared at the ridges of sand in the moonlight. The desert is beautiful, the little prince added. And it was true. I've always loved the desert. You sit down on sand dunes and see nothing, hear nothing, and yet something shines, something sings in that silence. What makes the desert beautiful, the little prince said, is that it hides a well somewhere. I was surprised by suddenly understanding that mysterious radiance of the sands. When I was a little boy, I lived in an old house, and there was a legend that a treasure was buried in it somewhere. Of course, no one was ever able to find the treasure. Perhaps no one ever even searched, but it cast a spell over the whole house. My house hid a secret in the depths of its heart. Yes, I said to the little prince. Whether it's a house or the stars of the desert, what makes them beautiful is invisible. I'm glad, he said. You agree with my fox. As the little prince was falling asleep, I picked him up in my arms and started walking again. I was moved. It was as if I was carrying a fragile treasure. It actually seemed to me there was nothing more fragile on earth. By the light of the moon, I gazed at that pale forehead, those closed eyes, those locks of hair trembling in the wind, and I said to myself, what I'm looking at is only a shell. What's most important is invisible. As his lips parted in a half-smile, I said to myself again, what moves me so deeply about this sleeping little prince is his loyalty to a flower. The image of a rose shining within him like the flame within a lamp, even when he's asleep. And I realized he was even more fragile than I had thought. Lamps must be protected. A gust of wind can blow them out, and walking on like that, I found the well at daybreak. The little prince said, people start out in express trains, but they no longer know what they're looking for. Then they get all excited and rush around in circles. And he added, it's not worth the trouble. The well we had come to was not at all like the wells of the Sahara. The wells of the Sahara are no more than holes dug in the sand. This one looked more like a village well, but there was no village here, and I thought I was dreaming. It's strange, I said to the little prince. Everything is ready, the pulley, the bucket, and the rope. He laughed, grasped the rope, and set the pulley working, and the pulley groaned the way an old weather vane groans when the wind has been asleep a long time. Hear that? Said the little prince. We've awakened this well, and it's singing. I didn't want him to tire himself out. Let me do that, I said to him. It's too heavy for you. Slowly I hoisted the bucket to the edge of the well. I set it down with great care. The song of the pulley continued in my ears, and I saw the sun glisten on the still, trembling water. I'm thirsty for that water, said the little prince. Let me drink some. And I understood what he'd been looking for. I raised the bucket to his lips. He drank, eyes closed. It was as sweet as a feast. That water was more than merely a drink. It was born of our walk beneath the stars, of the song of the pulley, of the effort of my arms. It did the heart good, like a present. When I was a little boy, the Christmas tree lights, the music of midnight mass, the tenderness of people's smiles made up, in the same way, the whole radiance of the Christmas present I received. People where you live, the little prince said, grow 5,000 roses in one garden, yet they don't find what they're looking for. They don't find it, I answered. And yet what they're looking for could be found in a single rose or a little water. Of course, I answered. And the little prince added, but eyes are blind. You have to look with the heart. I had drunk the water. I could breathe easy now. The sand at daybreak is honey-colored, and that color was making me happy too. Why then did I also feel so sad? You must keep your promise, said the little prince, sitting up again beside me. What promise? You know, a muzzle for my sheep. I'm responsible for this flower. I took my drawing out of my pocket. The little prince glanced at them and laughed as he said, Your baobabs look more like cabbages. Oh, I had been so proud of the baobabs. Your fox, his ears look more like horns, and they're too long. And he laughed again. You're being unfair, my little prince, I said. I never knew how to draw anything but boas from the inside and boas from the outside. Oh, that'll be all right, he said. Children understand. So then I drew a muzzle, and with a heavy heart I handed it to him. You've made plans I don't know about. But he didn't answer. He said, You know my fall to earth tomorrow will be the first anniversary. Then after a silence he continued, I landed very near here, and he blushed. And once again, without understanding why, I felt a strange grief. However, a question occurred to me. Then it wasn't by accident that on that morning I met you 8 days ago, you were walking that way, all alone, 1,000 miles from any inhabited region? Were you returning to the place where you fell to earth? The little prince blushed again, and I added hesitantly, Perhaps on account of the anniversary? The little prince blushed once more. He never answered questions, but when someone blushes, doesn't that mean yes? Ah, I said to the little prince, I'm afraid. But he answered, You must get to work now. You must get back to your engine. I'll wait here. Come back tomorrow night. But I wasn't reassured. I remembered the fox. You risk tears if you let yourself be tamed.